The emergency alert woke Commander Eric Wells from a deep sleep. He fumbled for the flashing device on his nightstand, his mind still foggy. It was 3:17 a.m. Earth Standard Time. "Commander Wells speaking," he said, his voice rough with sleep. "Sir, you need to get to command right away," said the voice of Lieutenant Samantha Ford. Something in her tone made Eric fully awake in an instant. "It's the Valorans, sir. They're under attack." Eric dressed quickly in his blue uniform and ran through the quiet halls of Earth's Orbital Defense Station Alpha. His footsteps echoed as he made his way to the command center. When the doors slid open, the room was already full of activity. Officers moved between stations with purpose. Screens around the room showed images that made Eric's stomach drop. Samantha turned to him as he entered. Her face was pale. "Sir, we're getting reports from across Valoran space. The Galactic Council launched attacks on all major Valoran worlds and outposts about 2 hours ago. No warning." Eric moved to the main display. The peaceful Valorans had been Earth's first alien friends. They looked somewhat like tall humans with blue skin and 4 arms. They had helped humans learn about space travel and introduced them to other aliens. Now their worlds were burning. "Casualties?" Eric asked, dreading the answer. "In the millions already," Samantha said quietly. "The Council's big ships hit every major Valoran city at the same time. Her voice broke slightly. "They targeted civilian areas first." The door to the command center opened again. Admiral John Rivers walked in. At 62, he was one of Earth's most respected military leaders. Everyone in the room stood straighter. "At ease," Rivers said. His face was like stone. "I just got off a call with Earth Central Command. The Galactic Council has sent us a message." He pressed a button, and a hologram appeared in the center of the room. It showed a tall, thin alien with gray skin and large black eyes. This was High Chancellor Zex Von of the Galactic Council, the most powerful political body in known space. "People of Earth," the alien said in a cold voice. "The Valoran Federation has been found guilty of developing forbidden weapons that threaten galactic peace. The Council has taken necessary action to remove this threat. Your alliance with the Valorans is now void. You will withdraw all human ships and personnel to your home system immediately. Failure to comply will result in similar action against Earth. You have 24 hours to begin this withdrawal, that is all." The message ended. The room was silent until Eric spoke. "They're lying," he said. "The Valorans don't have weapons programs. They're scientists and traders, not warriors." Admiral Rivers nodded. "We know that, but the Council has wanted to control Valoran space for decades. The Valorans refused to join them, and then made friends with us instead. The Council sees that as a threat." He turned to face all the officers in the room. "Make no mistake, this is not just about the Valorans. This is the first move in the Council's plan to put Earth back in what they consider our proper place, isolated and controlled." "What are our orders, sir?" asked Captain Lisa Mitchell, commander of Earth's Rapid Response Fleet. "For now, we gather information and prepare. I need to know how many Valorans are still alive and where. I need to know exactly which Council ships took part in this attack." Rivers looked around the room. His eyes were hard. "Earth will not abandon the Valorans." Across the room, screens showed the destruction. Valoran cities burned. Council warships hung in orbit over once peaceful worlds. In one video, blue-skinned Valoran families ran from soldiers in Council armor. Eric felt cold anger build inside him. 6 years ago, he had been part of the first human delegation to visit the Valoran homeworld. The Valorans had welcomed humans with open arms when most other alien races had treated them with suspicion or contempt. The Valorans had shared their knowledge freely, asking only for friendship in return. The command center's communication system beeped. "Sir," said an officer at the communication station, "we're getting a transmission from a Valoran ship. It's using emergency channels." "Put it through," ordered Rivers. The main screen showed the bridge of a small Valoran ship. Most of the lights were out. A female Valoran sat at the controls. Her blue skin was darker than usual, a sign of distress in her species. One of her forearms was wrapped in a bandage. "This is Ambassador Kira of the Valoran Diplomatic Corps," she said. Her voice was steady, despite her obvious pain. "I am transmitting from the research vessel Harmony. Our colony on Vel Prime has been destroyed by Council forces. We have survivors on board, mostly children. We request sanctuary." Rivers stepped forward. "Ambassador, this is Admiral John Rivers of Earth Defense. You have sanctuary. We're sending coordinates for a safe approach to Earth now. We'll have medical teams ready." Relief showed on the ambassador's face. "Thank you, Admiral. The Council believes that by destroying us, they will frighten Earth into submission. They do not understand humans very well, do they?" Rivers smiled grimly. "No, they don't. Safe journey, Ambassador. We'll see you soon." After the call ended, Rivers turned to his officers. "The Council just made the biggest mistake in their 1,000-year history. They think we're weak because we're new to space. They think we'll run and hide." He shook his head. Instead, they just made an enemy they never expected. He walked to a secure terminal and entered a long code. A hidden screen appeared showing technical details of ships unlike any that Earth had publicly revealed. "It's time to activate the Guardian Fleet," Rivers said. Eric's eyes widened. The Guardian Fleet was Earth's secret project. Warships built in hidden facilities, using technology that combined human ingenuity with what they had learned from various alien races. While presenting a peaceful face to the galaxy, Earth had quietly prepared for the possibility that not all aliens had good intentions. "Send the coded alert to all Guardian Fleet commanders," Rivers ordered. "Tell them to prepare for immediate deployment. The Valorans helped us when no one else would. Now it's our turn to help them." As officers rushed to carry out these orders, Eric looked again at the images of destruction. The Galactic Council had existed for thousands of years. They saw younger races like humans as barely more than animals. They expected Earth to abandon their friends and crawl back home in fear. They were about to learn how wrong they were. From hidden bases throughout Earth's solar system, ships began to power up. Ships that none of the Council races knew existed. Ships built by humans who remembered all too well what it was like to face extinction. The Galactic Council had started this war, but humanity would finish it. The United Earth Defense Force Assembly Hall was filled with noise. Representatives from every nation on Earth had gathered for this emergency meeting. The room fell silent when President Alan Garcia walked to the podium. His face was solemn as he faced the crowd. 24 hours ago, the Galactic Council attacked our friends and allies, the Valorans," he said. "They have killed millions of innocent civilians. They have destroyed cities and colonies across Valoran space, and they have ordered Earth to abandon the survivors and retreat to our solar system." He paused, looking around the room. "I have called you here today to inform you of Earth's response." Behind the president, a large screen lit up. It showed images of massive warships unlike any that Earth had publicly acknowledged owning. The ships were dark gray with blue lights along their hulls. They looked powerful and threatening. "For 15 years, while we have presented ourselves as a peaceful newcomer to galactic society, we have been preparing for a day we hoped would never come," Garcia continued. "The Guardian Fleet has remained hidden until now, built in secret, facilities beyond the orbit of Neptune." Whispers spread through the crowd. Most of Earth's citizens had no idea these ships existed. "The Galactic Council believes that by striking our allies they will frighten us into submission," he said, his voice growing stronger. "They have gravely miscalculated." In a secure facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, Commander Eric Wells and Admiral Rivers watched the president's speech on a screen. Around them, military personnel worked at control stations coordinating Earth's response. "The first Valoran refugee ships are entering our solar system now," reported Lieutenant Samantha Ford. "Medical teams are standing by." "Good," said Rivers. "What's the status of the Guardian Fleet?" A tall officer with short blonde hair stepped forward. "All ships report ready for deployment, sir. The UEDF Retribution is preparing to lead the first wave." Rivers nodded. "It's time to wake the sleeping giant." On a view screen, they could see the president continuing his address. "As of this moment, Operation Righteous Shield is in effect," Garcia announced. "The First Fleet will deploy immediately to protect remaining Valoran populations. The Second and Third Fleets will engage Council forces directly. In orbit around Mars, Commander Nicole Wright walked the bridge of the UEDF Retribution. At nearly 1 mile long, it was the largest and most advanced warship Earth had ever built. Unlike the sleek, shiny ships used by most Council races, Earth's vessels were built for war, heavily armored and filled with weapons. "Status report," Wright demanded, her gray eyes scanning the bridge. "All systems operational," replied Lieutenant Kevin Barnes from his station. "Quantum shields at full power. Weapons are hot and ready. Stealth systems are engaged." Wright nodded, her short brown hair barely moving as she turned to look at the tactical display. The crew of the Retribution was the best Earth had to offer, men and women who had trained for years for this moment. "The Council believes humans are weak," Wright said to her crew. "They think we're too young as a spacefaring species to pose any threat. Today they learn how wrong they are." She pressed a button on her command chair. "All hands, prepare for warp jump." The massive engines of the Retribution hummed to life. Around Mars, 30 other warships did the same. They moved into formation, their dark hulls making them hard to see against the blackness of space. "First target is the Regulus system," Wright announced. "Council forces have surrounded the Valoran colony there. Our mission is to break their blockade and evacuate survivors." The stars on the view screen began to stretch as the ships prepared to enter warp space. The Guardian fleet, Earth's secret weapon, was finally going to war. In his office on Earth, President Garcia finished his speech. "We did not want this conflict. We have always sought peaceful relations with all spacefaring species. But when our friends are massacred, when innocent lives are taken, humanity cannot and will not stand idle." His voice echoed through homes and public spaces across Earth. "The Council believes they can intimidate us because they are older and more established. They fail to understand a fundamental truth about humans. We do not abandon our friends." Back on the Retribution, Commander Wright gave the final order: "Engage warp engines." In a flash of blue light, the First Fleet disappeared from the solar system, heading toward their first battle. Admiral Rivers and Commander Wells watched from Earth's command center as signals from the fleet indicated successful warp jumps. "How long until they reach Regulus?" Wells asked. 4 hours, Rivers replied. "Our warp technology is faster than the Council expects. They won't have time to prepare." A young officer approached them with a tablet. "Sir, we've detected Council scout ships at the edge of our solar system. They're watching us but haven't approached further." Rivers smiled grimly. "Let them watch. Let them report back what they see. I want the Council to know exactly what's coming for them." On the main screen of the command center, they could see the Valoran refugee ship Harmony being escorted to Earth by defense vessels. It was the first of many ships carrying survivors of the Council's attack. Ambassador Kira of the Valoran stood on the bridge of the Harmony, watching as Earth grew larger in their view screen. Behind her, injured Valorans and frightened children huddled in the ship's main cabin. They had escaped with nothing but their lives. "Will your people really fight the Council for us?" asked a young Valoran standing beside her. "The Council has thousands of ships." Kira put one of her 4 hands on the child's shoulder. "Humans are not like other species we have met. When they make friends, they stand by them, no matter the cost." She looked again at Earth, growing closer. "The Council believes that because humans are new to space travel, they are weak. But I have studied human history. Do you know what happens when humans are backed into a corner? When their friends are threatened?" The young Valoran shook his head. "They fight with everything they have," Kira said quietly, "and they never ever give up." As the Harmony approached Earth, the first battles of a war that would change the galaxy forever were about to begin. The Galactic Council had ruled for 1,000 years through fear and intimidation. They had never faced an enemy like humanity, AI, species that combined advanced technology with an unbreakable will and a deep sense of loyalty. The Council had started this war by massacring Earth's allies. They would soon learn that this was the biggest mistake in their long history. Admiral Peter Morgan stood on the bridge of the UEDF Avenger. His gray eyes watched the main screen as his fleet prepared to exit warp space. The Avenger was the flagship of Earth's Second Fleet, carrying 20,000 crew members, and hundreds of fighter craft. Around it, 40 other warships moved in perfect formation. "Dropping out of warp in 30 seconds, Admiral," said the navigation officer. Morgan nodded. At 53 years old, he had never expected to lead a fleet into battle. Like most humans, he had hoped that joining the galactic community would bring peace and knowledge. Instead, it had brought them to the edge of war. "All ships, prepare for combat," Morgan ordered. "Remember your training. The Council may have more experience, but we have surprise on our side." The stars on the view screen returned to normal as the fleet dropped out of warp at the edge of the Andromeda sector. This region of space was home to 3 of the oldest Council races and contained major military bases. According to intelligence from Valoran survivors, this sector had been the staging area for the attacks. "Multiple Council vessels detected," reported Tactical Officer Susan Howard, her fingers moving across her control panel. "Their shields are down. They don't know we're here." Morgan's expression remained calm, but inside he felt a cold satisfaction. The Council races had become arrogant after thousands of years of dominance. They believed their quantum detection grid made surprise attacks impossible. They were wrong. "Deploy EMP mines and prepare to fire on my mark," Morgan said. Small, disc-shaped objects silently moved away from the Earthships, drifting toward the Council vessels. These were one of humanity's secret weapons, electromagnetic pulse devices designed to disable electronic systems. Council ships relied on complex energy systems with few mechanical backups, a weakness Earth had identified years ago. "EMP mines in position," Howard reported. Morgan gave a single nod. "Detonate." Across the sector, the mines activated simultaneously. There were no explosions, no visible signs of attack. But on the Council ships, systems began to fail. Lights went out. Weapons powered down. Communications went silent. "All vessels weapons free," Morgan ordered. "Target their propulsion and weapons systems only. We're here for justice, not revenge." Earth's ships moved forward, firing precise shots at the now defenseless Council vessels. The relativistic cannons, another human innovation, fired projectiles at near light speed, giving the enemy no time to react even if their systems had been working. Within minutes, the entire Council battle group was disabled. Not destroyed, but unable to fight or flee. Morgan had been clear in his orders. They would not kill unnecessarily. This was not a massacre like what had happened to the Valorans. This was a surgical military operation. "Send the message to all captured vessels," Morgan ordered. "Use their emergency channels." Lieutenant Howard nodded. "Message ready, sir." Morgan straightened his uniform. "This is Admiral Peter Morgan of the United Earth Defense Force. Your vessels have been disabled but not destroyed. Unlike the Galactic Council, we do not target civilians or conduct massacres. We are here for justice. Surrender the individuals responsible for the Valoran genocide, or we will continue to the Council homeworlds." On the Council command ship, High Commander Zalthara received the humans' message with shock. The tall, gray-skinned alien could not believe what had happened. How had humans, barely a century into space travel, developed technology that could bypass the Council's defenses? How had they built a fleet of this size without detection? "Sir," said an officer, "we have no propulsion, no weapons, and minimal life support. Other ships report the same." Zalthara felt fear for the first time in his long life. The Council had ruled through intimidation for centuries. They had never faced a serious military challenge. Their attack on the Valorans had been meant to demonstrate their power and scare humans back into isolation. Instead, it had awakened a sleeping giant. Back on the Avenger, Morgan received a communication from Earth. Commander Eric Wells appeared on screen. "Admiral, the President wants a status report," Wells said. "The Second Fleet has successfully neutralized the Council forces in the Andromeda sector," Morgan reported. "No casualties on our side. Council ships have been disabled but not destroyed." Wells nodded. "Good work. The First Fleet under Commander Wright has reached Regulus. They've broken the Council blockade and begun evacuating Valoran survivors. The Third Fleet is moving toward the Council capital sector." He paused. "How are the Council forces responding to your ultimatum?" Before Morgan could answer, Lieutenant Howard spoke up. "Sir, we're getting a transmission from the Council command ship." The screen changed to show Zalthara's face. The Council commander looked shaken, his gray skin paler than normal. "This is High Commander Zalthara of the Galactic Council Defense Force," he said, his voice stiff with pride and fear. "We request terms for our surrender." Morgan kept his face expressionless, though inside he felt a surge of satisfaction. "The terms are simple. You will provide us with the names and locations of everyone involved in planning and ordering the Valoran massacre. You will order all Council forces to cease hostilities against the Valorans immediately. And you will acknowledge Earth's right to protect its allies." Zalthara's large eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of distress in his species. "The Council has stood for thousands of years. We cannot simply—" Morgan cut him off. "The Council stood for thousands of years because no one challenged you. Those days are over. You massacred our allies. Consider yourselves fortunate that we don't respond in kind." On Earth, President Garcia received the news of the Second Fleet's victory with grim satisfaction. In the command center, he turned to Admiral Rivers. "How soon until the Third Fleet reaches the Council capital?" 12 hours, Rivers replied. "But I don't think they'll need to fire a shot. The Council is already calling for emergency meetings. Several member races are demanding explanations for the Valoran attack. They're fracturing from within." Garcia nodded. He had hoped to avoid war, but the Council had left Earth no choice. "Keep the pressure on. We won't stop until justice is served and the Valorans are safe." As word of Earth's victory spread, the galaxy watched in amazement. Humans, considered primitive by many older races, had demonstrated not only advanced military capability but also restraint. They had disabled rather than destroyed. They had targeted military assets rather than civilians. The Council had expected Earth to cower in fear after the Valoran massacre. Instead, humans had shown the galaxy what happened when their allies were threatened. Earth had emerged as a new power, one that fought not for conquest, but for justice. On the neutral world of Nexus Prime, Ambassador Olivia Mason walked into the emergency session of the Galactic Council. The large circular room was filled with representatives from 36 spacefaring civilizations. Many of them looked uncomfortable. Some looked angry. All of them watched the human woman with new respect and fear. Olivia was 45 years old, with dark skin and short black hair streaked with gray. 6 years ago, she had been a teacher. Then first contact happened, and her skill with languages had made her valuable to Earth's new diplomatic corps. Now she faced the most important moment of her career. "The Council recognizes the representative from Earth," said the Council speaker, a tall, thin alien with blue skin. Olivia stepped to the center of the room. Her voice was calm but firm. 3 days ago, Council forces attacked Valoran worlds. Without warning, millions died. The Council claimed this was a security action against weapons development. She paused. That was a lie. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Olivia pressed a button on her wrist device. Holographic displays appeared before each representative. "These are the executive orders for the attack on the Valorans," she said. "Orders signed by the High Council. They reveal the true purpose of the massacre." The room grew louder as the representatives read the documents. The orders were clear. The attack had not been about weapons. It had been the first step in a plan to expand Council authority over all younger races, including Earth. These documents were recovered from the command ship of High Commander Zalthara, Olivia continued. They prove that the massacre was not a security action. It was an attempted genocide, designed to frighten Earth and other young races into submission. The representative from Talaxia, a frog-like being with golden skin, stood up. "How do we know these documents are real? They could be human forgeries." Olivia nodded. "A fair question. That is why each document includes quantum verification codes. Any representative may check them against the Council's own records." The speaker looked alarmed. "These are classified Council documents. How did you obtain them?" Olivia met his gaze, steadily. The same way we obtained control of 5 council sectors in 3 days. Your security is not as strong as you believed." While Ambassador Mason addressed the council, Earth's forces continued their campaign. In the Helios system, Commander Ryan Clark led the UEDF Wolfpack, 10 medium-sized warships designed for speed and stealth. Their target was the Council's primary shipyard at Helios 9. "All ships maintain stealth approach," Clark ordered. He was 39 with a scar across his left cheek from an accident years ago. "Remember the mission parameters. We're capturing this facility, not destroying it." The Wolfpack moved silently toward the massive shipyard. It was bigger than anything humans had built, a sprawling structure where hundreds of Council warships were constructed and repaired. "Security systems detected," reported Lieutenant Gordon, the tactical officer. "They're scanning, but they don't see us." Clark nodded. Earth's stealth technology was another area where humans had surpassed the Council. By combining conventional methods with quantum field manipulation, human ships could become nearly invisible to standard detection systems. "Begin Phase 1, Clark ordered. Small objects detached from the Earth ships and moved toward the shipyard's power and communications centers. These were not weapons but specialized drones carrying Earth's most advanced cyber warfare systems. Phase 1 complete, Gordon reported after a few minutes. "Their security systems are compromised. Defensive grids are down." "Begin Phase 2, Clark said. The Wolfpack ships dropped their stealth fields and accelerated toward the shipyard. Alarms began to sound throughout the facility, but it was too late. With their defensive systems disabled, the Council personnel could only watch as human ships surrounded them. "This is Commander Ryan Clark of the United Earth Defense Force," Clark broadcast to the shipyard. "Your facility is now under our control. All personnel are ordered to remain at their stations. No one will be harmed if you cooperate." As Earth Marines boarded the shipyard, Clark addressed his crew. "The difference between us and them," he said, "is that we're only targeting military assets. No civilian casualties. We're delivering justice, not committing atrocities." Back on Nexus Prime, the Council session had descended into chaos. Several representatives were shouting at the High Council members, demanding explanations. "My government withdraws from the Council effective immediately," announced the Talaxian representative, the first to speak after reviewing the evidence. "We will not be party to genocide, nor to provoking a war with humans that we clearly cannot win." One by one, other representatives followed. The ancient alliance that had dominated galactic politics for millennia was collapsing under the weight of its own corruption. On Earth, President Garcia met with Valoran Ambassador Kira in the Oval Office. The four-armed blue alien looked tired, but grateful. "Over 50,000 Valoran refugees have arrived safely on Earth," Garcia said. "Our medical teams are treating the injured. We've prepared temporary housing in several countries." Kira bowed slightly. "My people will never forget what Earth has done for us. When no other race would stand against the Council, humans became our shield." "We protect our friends," Garcia said simply. "And we're not finished yet. Our fleets have secured 5 key sectors. The Council's leadership is in disarray. Several member races have withdrawn from the alliance." Kira's large eyes showed surprise. "So quickly. The Council has ruled for thousands of years." Garcia nodded. "They ruled through fear and the belief that no one could challenge them. Both those foundations are now broken." At that moment, Admiral Rivers entered the office. "Mr. President, we've received a communication from the Council. They're requesting peace talks." Garcia's eyebrows rose. "Already? What are their terms?" "That's the interesting part," Rivers said with a slight smile. "They're not offering terms. They're asking for ours." Garcia looked at Kira. "It seems the galaxy is changing faster than anyone expected. Ambassador, I'd like you to join our negotiation team. The Valorans must have a voice in whatever comes next." Across 5 sectors of space, Council military installations were now under Earth control. Earth ships protected the remaining Valoran worlds, and on a dozen planets, races that had once lived in fear of the Council watched and whispered about the humans who had accomplished in days what no one had managed in thousands of years. The Council had expected Earth to retreat in fear after the Valoran massacre. Instead, humans had emerged as a new power in the galaxy, not through conquest or dominance, but through a commitment to justice and the protection of their allies. The message was clear. Earth did not seek war, but those who harmed its friends would face consequences. 6 months after the Valoran massacre, representatives from 28 spacefaring civilizations gathered in Geneva, Switzerland. The Grand Hall was decorated with flags from Earth nations alongside symbols of alien worlds. Outside, spring. Sunshine warmed the shores of Lake Geneva. Admiral Catherine Lee, newly appointed Supreme Commander of the United Defense Forces, stood tall in her dark blue uniform. At 48, she had not expected such responsibility. But the events of the past 6 months had changed everything for humanity. Beside her stood Keltarash, the new Valoran Prime Minister. Though his people had suffered terribly, they were rebuilding with Earth's protection and help. President Garcia walked to the podium at the center of the hall. Cameras broadcast the event to billions of humans and aliens across the galaxy. 6 months ago, the galaxy was a very different place, Garcia began. The Galactic Council ruled through fear. They believed they could attack our allies without consequences. They expected Earth to abandon the Valorans and retreat in fear. He looked around the room, meeting the eyes of the gathered representatives. Instead, we showed the galaxy something important about humanity. We stand by our friends. We fight against injustice. And we are not to be underestimated. In orbit above Earth, former Council warships, now disarmed and repurposed as transport, vessels carried supplies to Valoran colony worlds. The ships were part of the reparations the Council had agreed to pay. The Council still existed, but it was greatly changed. Most of its former leadership now faced trial for war crimes. Its military power had been limited by treaty, and its authority now extended only to those worlds that chose to remain members. Today, we signed the Terran Accord, President Garcia continued. Not an alliance built on fear, but one founded on principles of equality, sovereignty, and mutual defense. Every world that joins does so by choice, not coercion. Commander Diane Powell watched the ceremony from the bridge of her ship, the UEDF Guardian. She had fought in the brief but decisive conflict that humans now called the Justice War. She felt proud of what Earth had accomplished, but also solemn about the cost. Was it worth it? Asked her executive officer, Lieutenant Greg Martinez. He was young, just 28, and had seen his first combat during the war. Powell considered the question carefully. She thought of the Valoran lives lost in the massacre, and of the human soldiers who had died during the campaign. No victory came without cost. The Valorans were nearly wiped out, she said finally, and we were forced to become something we had avoided for decades, a military power in the galaxy. She looked at the view screen showing the gathering in Geneva. Representatives of many species stood side by side, former enemies now cautious allies under humanity's protection. But we showed the galaxy something important, she continued. Humans don't abandon our friends. We don't tolerate genocide. And we are not to be underestimated. She paused. I think history will say yes, it was worth it. Not just for us, but for every race that will never have to fear the Council again. Back in Geneva, Admiral Lee and Prime Minister Keltarash stepped forward to sign the Terran Accord alongside President Garcia. Each signature was met with applause. The Council believed destroying our allies would weaken humanity's position in the galaxy, Garcia said as the ceremony concluded. Instead, it revealed the true character of both parties. When faced with atrocity, humanity didn't retreat. We rose to defend those who could not defend themselves. On a Valoran colony world renamed New Hope, children played in recently built parks. The world had been nearly destroyed in the Council attack, but now new cities were rising from the ruins. Earth engineers worked alongside Valoran builders. Human doctors treated the injured in newly built hospitals. Ambassador Olivia Mason walked through a busy market square with Lara, a young Valoran child who had lost her parents in the massacre. The girl now lived with a Valoran family, but she visited Olivia regularly. My teacher says humans changed everything, Lara said as they sat on a bench eating ice cream, a Earth treat that had become popular among Valorans. She says the galaxy is different now because of you. Olivia smiled. Your teacher is right, but it wasn't just because we're strong. It was because we made the right choice. To help us when no one else would? Lara asked. Yes, Olivia nodded. That's what friends do. In Earth's solar system, a new facility orbited Jupiter. Here, representatives from a dozen alien races worked alongside human scientists, sharing knowledge that the Council had once restricted. New technologies were being developed. New understandings were being reached. On the bridge of the UEDF Avenger, Admiral Peter Morgan received a transmission from Admiral Lee. The Terran Accord is officially signed, she told him. 28 worlds have joined so far. More are expected in the coming months. Morgan nodded. And the Council remnant? Confined to their core systems by treaty, Lee replied. Their military has been reduced by 80%. The faction responsible for the Valoran massacre has been removed from power and is facing justice. Good, Morgan said. He looked out at the stars visible through the view screen. I never wanted to be a wartime admiral. None of us wanted war, Lee said. But when it came, we did what needed to be done, and we did it the right way. She paused. Your fleet can return to Earth next month. The diplomatic team say the situation is stable now. After the transmission ended, Morgan walked to the observation deck of his ship. He stood looking out, at the stars, thinking about how quickly everything had changed. 6 months ago, humanity had been seen as newcomers to the galactic stage, interesting perhaps, but not significant. The Council had ruled for thousands of years, and no one had challenged them successfully. Then came the Valoran massacre. And the galaxy learned something important about humans. They defended their friends, they fought for justice, and they were far more capable than anyone had imagined. Earth had entered the galactic community as students and explorers. Now they would serve as its guardians. Not through conquest or dominance, but through a commitment to justice that the older races had forgotten long ago. As Morgan watched a distant star flare brightly in the darkness, he felt a sense of peace. The war was over. The peace had begun, and humans had changed the galaxy forever.